At our groundbreaking on June 9th, 1999, on 4 acres of ground. And here's Steve.
Hi, Fred.
Managing as usual.
What's that?
Managing as usual.
Yes.
This is the expanse of the place. It's a biggie.
We got great news.
What's that?
I spoke with Philadelphia Inquirer.
Oh, really?
They picked the article up with a featured lead story, Mars Inquirer, and they were so impressed with the stories.
Oh.
Yeah. That.
How'd they get that?
I guess Noreen sent it. But anyway, they were so impressed that they're going to send reporters and photographers out, and they're going to do a whole story on the company.
Holy mackerel.
Yeah.
Here's our food tent for when the crowd gets here, whoever they are. And there's somebody sitting there, ready to go.
Well, you have to do that when we
Have to do what?
starting to snow.
Oh,
Take pictures.
okay.
Otherwise, they.
Here's Amanda waiting for something to happen. Here it is. 29th year. And growing. There's where the red things are, is where the building is going. This is up front, it's going to be parking.
Most little dogs are going to
Before the event.
see, that's right.
There's another cameraman. Steve's dad. And so on. Perry. They're all coming in. A little bit of food for the troops.
I knew I saw him.
Smile, you're okay.
I hope.
Everybody's lining up for the food here. Catch some faces.
Mine's back here.
Thank you for this. They don't take them off. They were going to wear them today. Tell them top. Especially they called me to work today. That's why I couldn't make it. Sorry.
No. Nothing, right? Let me see.
I spent several months with the nuns. I'm also a product of nuns, so I have a sense of the discipline they put into Fred. And within 3 months he was speaking English, got himself admitted to Northeast High, and then went on to a business career, but always had a dream. And the dream was that someday he would own and operate his own company. And that's what he did. And that's what has become CompuData. So it's my pleasure to introduce the founder, Fred Rump.
Good afternoon. Mr. Mayor, various other city representatives, customers, friends, family, and last but not least, CompuData folks, CompuData staff. Thank you for being here, and good afternoon. My thank you comes to you, the staff, because without you, we wouldn't be here. I wouldn't be standing here, Steve wouldn't be here. It's all based upon the effort and the customer service you folks do day in, day out. But there are also some other special people I need to thank for this event being possible. It was these people who stood beside me when times were really tough. And it's been a long, hard struggle. There's no kidding about that. A small company without capital, without backing of anybody. Basically, you're doing it by the skin of your teeth, and you're basically putting labor and hours into the effort and hope to survive. We went through all the struggles that a small business goes through in its early days. And before we had a staff, which is now about 60 here in Philadelphia and North Carolina, we were just 4 or 5 people for a long time. And among those 4 or 5 people, there were 2 who are here today. One is Steve Giorcello, our president, and the other is Ann Newell. I'll meet you a little later on. And of course, there was my family, my kids, my wife. The kids missed their father. The wife missed her husband. And those of you who are in small businesses know the story, how that works. It's a lot of sacrifice. The only thing I could give was my time. 7-day-a-week jobs, 7-day-a-week being away, 10, 12 hours a day was almost the norm. And so all this time, once I got going, once I had a little business, along came Steve, and he stood right next to me, side by side, and we got this thing going to where we are now. But above all, the one person I really have to thank most is my wife. You know about wives, it's tough on them. Husband's gone, you have to raise the kids, and it's so much easier to just get a regular job, 40 hours a week, regular salary, come home at night, and do all those neat things that families do. But somehow you have to sacrifice if you want to build something out of nothing. So it is to these people I owe my heartfelt thanks, the family, the staff, and of course now there are a lot of other people coming to help us out, among them the city, the various city agencies, banks, our law firm, our accounting firm. Everybody's kind of together in this. And to all of you, I offer my heartfelt thank you. Now, I stand here in front of you a bit in awe. The scene was certainly nothing I ever programmed in any job I ever did. It's really not something that I have ever thought possible. After all, I'm just an immigrant boy who came to this country with a dream. And dreams don't often come true. Sometimes they do. I wrote some notes here so that I wouldn't babble on. I arrived here wearing knickers and a funny hat, and kids laughed at me. I guess I didn't know the language, but I understood the laugh. The very first thing is to change clothes and get with it and become an American. I was 14, and I had read a lot of stories about America. Horatio Alger was in my head, success, selling newspapers and becoming rich and wealthy and famous and all of that stuff. It was there even when I was young. My parents were refugees from East Prussia. We were among about 16 million German people who had to leave their homes as a result of World War II. And the Displaced Persons Act that our Congress passed allowed many of us to come to America and start our life over again. We came here in 1952 on a troop ship, which was no longer useful because the war was over, and this was the General Sturgis. One morning on the way here, my dad woke me up early in the morning on the ship and brought me up to the deck I was all sleepy and half seasick. And he showed me what was rising out of the fog on that day. It was the Statue of Liberty. And I saw my father. It picks me up even now. He had tears in his eyes. And I had never seen my dad cry before, but he was really, really emotional. And the whole thing about coming here came home to me. This was no longer an adventure of a young 14-year-old boy. This was life. This was something really important. And I knew I had to learn the language. I had to learn new customs. I had to learn how to eat all this funny food you had over here. Salty butter and corn and pineapple juice and all the things I had never heard of or seen before. And we arrived here, and I got settled in St. Henry's, as Bill said. Learned English in 3 to 6 months. It was rather rapid. You had to. And went off to Northeast Catholic to go to high school. Not that I wish to bore you with all of this personal stuff, but let me just tell you one little story. We had arrived at the train station, I think it was called Lehigh Avenue Station, and that's the first time I saw Philadelphia. And a friend of ours from my dad's youth picked us up in the 46 DeSoto on the train station. And that was the first time I had ever been in a private car. Such things just weren't in our life over there. I wore wooden shoes in Germany. As a refugee, you really didn't have anything. So, the first thing I did within the first week, we lived on 3rd Street, 5009 North 3rd, and I got myself a newspaper route, and I shouted people how much the bill was, but I couldn't say it. And they always got a tip. Quarter here, 50 cents there. And within a few weeks, I had enough money to go to the Firestone store at 5th and Tabor, buy myself a brand new spanking bicycle, a Firestone bicycle. That was a proud day in my life. At St. Henry's, we had a German community. It's all gone now. We moved to Alney and all those German people up there. We finally moved up north and so forth. My parents bought a house in Abington. Their dream came true. And I went to work for the Philadelphia Gas Works after I got out of high school. I worked there for 9 years as a programmer and systems analyst, and eventually moved on to other things. In high school, it was tough in the beginning, but at the end of 4 years, I still graduated near the very top of the class of 1,110 seniors. And I had, by this time, pretty much acclimated myself to the American way of life. I even, as a sophomore, on the day I turned 16, I got myself a 49 Olds. Again, just like everybody else. And on that, but the year before, when I was 15, one day, as a member of the German-American Youth Choir, we went to a ball game at County Mack Stadium, my first baseball game. And I really wasn't interested to see a bunch of grown men play stickball. Wasn't really my thing. So I went to investigate the stadium. And I was way up there somewhere, and all of a sudden the ball came up there, where I was. And I figured they needed that ball to play. So I hauled out and I wanted to throw it back. And all the people below me started covering their heads and said, "Oh, no, don't do that," whatever, they were howling at me. And I figured, well, they think I can't throw that far. So I better go down a few more levels and try again. And I did that. And again, the whole crowd started yelling at me. By this time, the whole stadium was in the act. And they saw this crazy kid up there trying to throw a ball into the field. But by this time, a lot of people came up to me and offered me money. They offered me a quarter, 50 cents for this ball. And I knew right then and there, this thing is worth something. So I better keep it. I didn't throw it back. I could tell a few more stories like that, but I don't want to take up your time. It's been fun. growing up here. But now as I stand here before you, I wish I had just one more wish, and that would be that my parents could be here. For me to stand here and have the mayor here of a great American city and all these important officials would be really something. My dad would be beaming from head to foot, I'm sure. And my mom would be standing there, smiling from ear to ear. But time goes on, and it's time for me and everybody else. We have to pass the baton on. And a few years ago, I started pulling back and started turning things over to younger people. They can run faster and do things quicker and grow the company the way they want to grow. Because I really want the company to stay as a family and continue as a family, as an independent little company, rather than be sold and be bought up by some big outfit. Steve came to us way back then, in the early 70s. He was still going to Northeast High. And he brings his own sacrifices to this table. Steve really missed his youth because he worked so hard for CompuData. He spent every waking hour and every day and weekends and whatever, he was right there next to me. And over the years, a lot of people said he was kind of crazy for doing this. Wasn't getting any money, was working a lot of hours. And one time, he had a real good job offer from somebody, he was going to leave. And I told him, Steve, someday you'll be running this company. And he stayed. And he trusted me then to follow through on that wish, and as I trust him now to continue and carry the ball on. We had our few disagreements here and there over the years, as is normal. But one thing we always stuck with and never argued about was that the customer has to come first, no matter what. Drop everything, do whatever you have to do. And a lot of you here who are CompuData people know all about getting up in the middle of the night or on a Sunday afternoon when you're in the middle of a baseball game and you have to go somewhere to help a customer out of a mess. That's what we do. And that's something we never really argued about. That's been our philosophy. Now, some of you may wonder why, where did I find Steve? Where did this kid come from? And let me only tell you, I met him because he wanted to have a computer that I had that took pictures of people at a high school fair he was organizing at Northeast. It was a computer fair, the first one in the city. And I really wasn't interested. But as usual, and as Bill has already alluded, Steve doesn't quit. He keeps going, keeps pushing until he gets his way. And I got there with our machine and I saw what he was doing. I mean, he was literally running that school. The teachers listened to him. They did exactly what Steve said. And, you know, I was impressed. Here's this kid, you know, telling all these teachers what to do. And all he really had there in that time was a teletype tied into Temple, and he knew BASIC, and they were doing their thing with their teletype machine. But just to show you how rambunctious he was, he brought Admiral, then Captain Grace Hopper, who was the inventor of COBOL, brought her to the school, and he brought Dr. Markley from University of Pennsylvania, who invented the ENIAC. And then he said, and I want you too, Fred, you know, sit next to these guys. Kind of wild, you know, sit next to these superstars. And here was a little guy trying to run a service bureau. But it was right then and there I thought, this guy, I want him to work for me. You know, he can do things. And I know then, as I know now, I made the right decision. Thank you, Steve.
Thank you very much, Fred. We do want to hear from the other half of the CompuData team. Fred has basically used up my introduction. But Steve was the person who, as a sophomore at Northeast High, when a teacher wanted to do a math fair, said, "I know it's going to come to a math fair. Let's do a computer fair." I think most of us back in 1972 had no idea what all that was all about. He was right. He met Fred. The partnership that Fred just talked about happened. And today we have the talented and, as has been alluded to now twice, energetic and determined President and CEO, Steve Churchill.
Thanks, everybody. I'd like to thank our mayor, city and state representatives, customers, employees, family, and friends for joining us today. I, too, would like to thank my wife, Peggy, for her patience in waiting for me to ride home late each night. Our 2.5-year-old twins, Sarah and Rachel, should be plenty tired by now from running around the grounds here today. But I would also like to thank my parents who are here today. They played taxi to me for getting me back and forth to CompuData at the age of 15. I would especially like to thank Bill Hankowski and the tremendous staff at PIDC for all their hard work on this project. One person in particular at PIDC should be recognized, though. Without his persistence and knowledge of the Keystone Opportunity Zone program, we surely would not be here today, and that person is Jim Palankowski. I'd also like to thank the staff at Sovereign Bank. As a former First Union customer, it's nice to be with a bank that views you as a business partner and not just as an account number. To all of our staff and customers here today, what can I say? You are the real reason we're here today, for without you, we'd truly be nothing. I can remember when we were a staff of 5 working in the back offices at 2nd and Allegheny. It is therefore amazing to look behind me and see a new 30,000 square foot building being built to house our new corporate headquarters. Back in the early 1970s, we made a living providing data processing services to a handful of companies. Over these many years, we had the opportunity to create business relationships with hundreds of companies. In fact, everywhere I travel in this area, I see one of our customers building or vehicles on the road today. Even within a mile radius of the site, we have many valued customers who have joined us here today, such as Arville Glove and Safety Products, who were just nominated for Family Business of the Year, Charles Becker Brothers, Educational Credit Union, Franklin Printing, and International Lithographic. Even one of our customers from Long Island, New York is here with us today. Super Edition Distributors was so impressed with the benefits of the Keystone Opportunity Zone that they decided to become neighbors on this very street. We have so many other customers here today, such as Auto Club Cellular from Newtown and so many others. I haven't looked around, but I know you're out there, and thank you. Today we provide systems, software, training, and support for thousands of customers from New York to South Carolina. One aspect of our business, though, has never changed from the day we started, and that is that service is the key to growth and stability. You really understand the true meaning of service when a customer gives you paperwork and looks to you for calculating, processing, and report output to run their business. That is how the technology industry with mainframe computers started back in the 1960s and 70s. As many of our peers continued to operate large mainframe computers, we saw a future of providing information to the customer on their desk. The age of the mini computer was born in the late 1970s, and CompuData was there with programmers and field service. Our company grew as we sold systems throughout the area and even landed an international franchisor by the name of West Coast Video. Yes, in the 1980s and even to this day, West Coast Video operated on systems and software we designed and provided back in the heyday of video rental stores. And then came Blockbuster, and that's another story for another day. Even during the grand days of the mini computers, we continued to look toward the future. A little company in California and one in Washington State started to make products that seemed to have the potential of giving the mini computer a run for its money. You know those two companies as Intel and Microsoft today. While looking at technology in California, we also found a little company called the Santa Cruz Operation. You probably know them as SCO today, and they are the largest providers of Unix operating systems today. Today, CompuData is one of the largest resellers of Acer brand Intel-based systems, a Microsoft solutions provider, and one of the oldest SCO premier product centers in the world. Even with that, as we grew, it became obvious that we needed to find a way to sort of package our capabilities. We knew we had a reliable and knowledgeable support staff and talented programmers. In fact, our staff has some of the lowest turnover rates in the industry. Why? because we treat our staff the way our customers expect to be treated. We have a staff that is highly and continuously trained, knowledgeable, helpful, and friendly to our customers. We also take great pleasure in fostering long-term relationships with our employees. We take pride in providing them with the opportunity, and yes, the challenges too, enable them to continually develop their expertise. I'd also like to take a moment to recognize one of our employees in particular, Ann Newell. Where is she? Ann has been a part of CompuData for 25 years. In 1990, we acquired a company in Charlotte, North Carolina. Through that acquisition, we found our missing piece to the total turnkey business solution. Today, CompuData is now the largest provider of Sage's Mass 90 accounting, distribution, and manufacturing product in Pennsylvania and North Carolina. We're also the authorized training center for their products in the Philadelphia metropolitan area, as well as Charlotte, North Carolina. As our customer base continues to grow, so do our customers. We have partnered with Sage again to provide the Acuity line of high-end accounting, distribution, Salesforce automation, and manufacturing software for medium to large corporations. With turnkey business solutions and all of the networking, internet, wide area connectivity, custom programming, and 7x24 on-site support staff, we are poised to continue to provide new capabilities through technology for our customers into the new millennium. That is why CompuData continues to bridge the gap to tomorrow's business computing solutions. Today, the CompuData family is breaking ground to develop our new corporate headquarters. Our thanks to Anvil Construction, who is our building contractor, and also one of our new neighbors. Our appreciation to PIDC and Sovereign Bank for the financial partnership and support of this project. And we thank Governor Tom Ridge and Mayor Ed Rendell for the opportunity to develop the site as the first Keystone Opportunity Zone company in Pennsylvania, and to be part of the continuing growth of the Philadelphia business community. We are grateful for this groundbreaking, and we look forward to the future as we work together with our clients, employees, and community to continue the cycle of breaking new ground, development, and opportunity. Thank you, and I invite each one of you to our open house here in December.
Thank you, Steve. Any one of these transactions always has a partnership. You've got the terrific team and client here with Fred and Steve. The public has to do a piece. Then there's always this thing about money. Who's going to provide the financing? And as Steve said, we have a great partner in this transaction in Sovereign Bank. And today they are represented by their Chief Financial Officer, Dennis Marlowe, who I'd like to ask to say a few words. Dennis.
Bill, thank you very much. And you guys are a success story. I think I'm proud to represent Sovereign, particularly coming into the city of Philadelphia and being able to help a growing entrepreneurial type company like CompuData. And I think the important thing to recognize here is, I think when we start looking at what we can do to help our customers, I think that the little sign says, success is confidence, we can help you get there. And I think that's a little bit of a hopefully what we can add to the organization. I think the important thing to recognize too is that when we look at the community, the Keystone Opportunity Zone, or COZ as some people are referring to it, it shares a lot of the common goals that Sovereign Bank does, and that's to try to help growing and aggressive companies become more successful, and that's a little bit of what I think we add to the equation in this whole process. I know the mayor will probably agree with us that I think this is a good example of the stories that we heard from Fred and Steve also about companies that will be successful and will continue to be successful in the changing environment because of some of the aggressive strategies that they're doing and the management styles that they have, and we're glad to certainly support that. I think when I look back at how we got involved with Sovereign, I know I just started to read some things and met some people, but it's typical, I think, how business is done in Philadelphia. We sit here and we look at Anvil Construction, which has been a friend of a lot of our employees for years, and a lot of our commercial lenders. They're your general contractors. They put a lead out to their relationship officer at Sovereign Bank, Kevin Cornwall, who then contacted some of our people up in the Northeast here, Philadelphia, and Bill Gill and his group kind of started to work with you guys, and that's how it all works. And that's a little bit of, I think, how we start to develop relationships through this whole networking. And I hope some of our guys that are here now start passing out cards to some of the other guys that you mentioned are going to be moving into this industrial park. I noticed a little earlier that the mayor was kind of looking through some of these other industrial zones, and I'm not sure, I guess maybe if he's not going to be the the junior senator next to Hillary down there in Washington. He might be looking at maybe a new site with his community, the Keystone Industrial Zone here for maybe his Rendelli Hoagie Works. And I'm sure there's probably some space down the street where he can kind of move in with that also. But I want to thank CompuData for supporting Sovereign, and hopefully we'll support you through this whole process. It's been a very good process, and we hope we'll have a very continuing relationship, and you guys will triple your sales in 3 years rather than double your sales in the 2 years that you guys are planning. All right, thank you.
We have one final speaker before we dig the dirt. We've had just extraordinary leadership in the city of Philadelphia over the last 7.5 years. And actually, this situation here is a great example. 7.5 years ago, in this industrial park the PIDC we had 10 vacancies in various buildings up here. When Steve put his building up for sale, when he decided he was coming here, it sold in 20 minutes. The business environment in the city of Philadelphia today is simply extraordinary, and there is no more extraordinary person that we have to thank than Mayor Ed Rendell.
Thank you, Bill. Thank you all, and let me say one of the things that hasn't been mentioned, but I think Steve and Fred would agree that one of the reasons that they chose to remain in Philadelphia, along with the others that they've talked about, is the extraordinary decade-long relationship they've had with PIDC, Bill, and all the great people who work with him. And the Philadelphia Industrial Development Corporation is a great arm of everything we do in the city in terms of economic development. And Bill, I salute you and all the people who work with you. You know, we're very fortunate to have two terrific people like Fred and Steve to have found each other and to have built this business. And Fred, we're awfully pleased that your parents decided to come to America. That was, started the chain of events that brought us here today, and whatever it was that